And welcome to Congressman Adam Schiff, who joins us this morning. Good to see you again, Congressman.
Good to see you, too.
Got a bunch of items, so we're going to go through them. Hillary Clinton. What would you, remember you're a Democrat, what do you advise Hillary Clinton? She's going to speak today, I think, about 10:30 our time. What would you advise her to say about this whole email situation?
Well, I'm glad that she's going to be speaking today, and I would recommend that she talk about the emails that she's produced to the State Department. She gave 55,000 pages of them last year, not this week, and not in response to a newspaper article in the New York Times, but last year. I would have her talk about what's in those, about what pertains to Benghazi. That's supposedly why these emails were turned over to our committee. I serve on that select committee in Benghazi. You know, here we are almost a year into this investigation. A couple months, it'll be a full year. We still don't know what we're looking for. We want Hillary Clinton's emails for something, but we don't even know what we want to find in them.
But how do we know that these aren't cherry-picked? They give a big number, 55,000. It's an overwhelming number. I pity anybody who has to look through all of that. But how do we know the key ones aren't being presented?
Right.
We don't.
Well, you can bring in, we can bring into our committee, or we can have those who did the document production certify that they provided all the appropriate emails. But there's another, I think, better check on how we know we've gotten what is relevant to our investigation, and that is any emails that the Secretary of State sent, for example, on this mythical stand-down order that the military not rescue people. Now, I don't know why anybody would send such an order, but someone would have to receive that email, right? Someone would have to carry it out in the military. Someone in the State Department would have to be communicating that. No one has ever received any email like that. No one has ever received any order like that. And indeed, we didn't even have military assets in the area. So it's still not clear what we're looking for, but presumably, if there were incriminating emails, they would have had to have been received by someone.
But what about people who say, why was she exclusively using her private email? Why not use the government-issued email account?
Well, and I think that's what she'll be addressing today, and many elected officials have chosen to do that. Jeb Bush, for example, he had his own personal server as governor of Florida. That's an appropriate question to ask the governor, too. But I think we should have the same standard for both. And
what was your... Yeah. I want to cut through a little bit of the rhetoric, if it's okay. With respect, but what was your reaction when you heard this? And I want to put it in perspective. You've been all over the intelligence about this. You're in the middle of the whole Benghazi as a political thing, as a military thing. That's your bailiwick. But when you heard this, that it was all on a private server, what was your reaction?
Well, my reaction is this is all the more reason why it's necessary to publish all of these emails, because no one is going to be satisfied until they can read the emails for themselves.
Why would she have chosen to use a private server?
Well, again, that's something I think she'll address today. But it's something that not only Secretary Clinton, but many others like Jeb Bush have done the same thing. So I think it's a question for all of the candidates, and that's an appropriate question for the media and for the political parties. But as an investigative subcommittee that's supposedly getting into the bottom of Benghazi, the use of private servers was years before Benghazi, so it's not really related to our investigation. We need to make sure that we get all the records, and I'm confident we will. I've read the emails pertaining to Benghazi, and there's nothing, I think, of a conspiratorial nature in them.
Well, you thought back then, you were very public about it, there's a lot of blowing smoke, and you thought that an extra committee wasn't needed, an investigative committee, although you served on it to make sure that there was somebody there. But let me move on to another
And let me just mention, I don't think it's a coincidence that the only figure that this committee really seems to be interested in is Hillary Clinton, and she's a likely presidential candidate.
Sure.
You don't see the same kind of focus and attention of the committee on anyone else.
That's understandable, because she's a likely presidential candidate.
Yes, and I'd like to say, Congressman, you were not born yesterday.
It's understandable from a political point of view, but from an investigative point of view, that doesn't make as much sense.
All right, let me move on to this situation with the 40 senators who have informed Iran that, hey, don't jump on what the president's telling you, because there's going to be a new president and we'll probably change all the rules.
Things won't apply anyway.
You have been particularly a critic of presidential overreach without some kind of legislative support for what he does. So you're in a unique position. He's your president, he's your party, and yet you're opposed to some overreach. What do you think about these people?
I'm appalled, frankly, that, as you were saying earlier this morning, that not only does politics not end at the water's edge anymore, it just begins in a completely new dimension. It's unheard of for a group of members of Congress, while sensitive negotiations are going on, to write to hardliners in another country, essentially urging them to reject the negotiations.
Has anything like this ever happened?
I don't think anything like this has ever happened, and it just goes to show the extraordinary bitterness towards some of these folks in Congress towards the president, and the willingness to politicize an issue that may ultimately be one of war or peace. And I think we ought to keep our powder dry, both in the House and Senate, Democrats and Republicans. Let's see if we even have a deal negotiated, because we don't have one yet. And if we do, there'll be plenty of time for us to weigh in.
For those who want to basically say, stop all the talk, let's go in and take out any nuclear capability that Iran would have, you say what?
Well, I say that if you go in militarily, which is what would be necessary to do that, you may set them back for a year or 2 years, but they will then break out. There'll be no reason for them not to. They will then speed towards a bomb. They'll throw out all the inspectors, so we won't know exactly what they're doing. So it would have to be a periodic, effectively, bombing of Iran. And that is, I think, a very dangerous path for us to go down.
When Boko Haram just swore fealty to ISIS, was that just a kind of stunt, or does that really strike more fear into your heart?
It's unclear at this point. I mean, clearly they do want the PR value of it. Boko Haram is under great pressure now. You have 4 African nations teaming up militarily to go after them, from Nigeria, Cameroon, and Chad. So they're under pressure. This helps them attract money potentially from ISIS.
Although Boko Haram doesn't need money, they're financially quite sound. I think it's just a sign, don't you, that ISIS is mushrooming all over the place?
Well, you know, ISIS is mushrooming, and they are having people choose to affiliate. But I think ISIS, while ISIS is very well financed, Boko Haram, I think, is under greater financial pressure, certainly under greater military pressure, and they want to emulate ISIS. They've already used a lot of the same brutal tactics, so it helps them get on the sort of the top of the terrorist chart by associating themselves with ISIS. And it's good for ISIS. ISIS is under a lot of stress and strain right now. But whether they'll actually be command and control, whether ISIS will be able to tell Boko Haram what to do, that very much remains to be seen.
Last question. You going to run for the Senate? Barbara Boxer's seat? Are you?
I'm looking at it.
Are you going to run?
I haven't made any decisions.
Are you tap dancing now? Have you made a decision, but you're just tap dancing?
But I will come back on if I do make that call. You'll be the first to hear.
Okay. Great to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming in. Good to see you.